welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be checking out the all-new Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee, Origin Bumblebee, also known as a Siege/Cybertronian figure. Finally, we're getting Bumblebee in his Cybertronian form, 3 chapters after Siege did debut, and this guy actually looks to be the best figure from Buzzworthy Bumblebee so far, as he is in fact the first original deluxe mold that this line has produced, and he actually looks really cool. Now, taking a very quick look here at the package, you can see we've got a variety of different images there of the character. This is in fact one of the first mainline boxes that has completely abolished all plastic, which honestly is a step that I think Hasbro may actually reverse, considering the paint on this guy can be very easily damaged and you can actually touch him and he's going to be very easy to actually remove. So this I personally don't think is a great idea, but as we spin around here to the back, you can see we've got a cool image there of the character. Taking a look here at the back of the box, we've got an image of him in bot mode as well as the Cybertronian saucer mode, some of the different accessories that he includes such as the jetpack, the blaster, as well as some of these energon conductor rods, and this guy is in fact based on Transformers War for Cybertron. So maybe in Kingdom we'll actually finally see this character transform, as from what I can recall we haven't actually seen Bumblebee transform in the show so far. So without further ado, let's crack this Origin Bumblebee open and see what awaits us inside. So here we have Origin Bumblebee cracked open out of the packaging, and the figure actually turned out so much better than I was expecting. A really well done figure, and is no doubt a leftover from Siege, as he literally has all of the bells and whistles that you would expect from a War for Cybertron figure. But regardless, before we take a look at the figure, we'll very quickly cover the accessories. So he does in fact include a jetpack, which is distinctively made here for Bumblebee. So this is not the version that we got in the Centurion drone pack, which you could use for Optimus Prime and Sideswipe. Whilst you can still use this for those characters, it has been sculpted in a way where it looks slightly unusual on both of them, whereas here on Bumblebee, it doesn't look nowhere near as bad. So you can see we've got some pretty decent detail in the interior, as well as here on the back, you can see the thrusters, not painted, unfortunately, like depicted on the box, but regardless, it's still a nice accessory. You simply just peg that there, and there you've got Bumblebee with the jetpack. We do also get a brand new blaster for the character, so you can see this time completely cast in a black plastic, completely different from the Centurion drone pack. And we also get 5 of these energon conductor rods. Now, these are actually a really nice inclusion. We see him and Wheeljack in the first ever pilot episode of G1 actually collecting these, so to actually get this here with this Cybertronian Bumblebee is super cool. They've merely just been cast out of translucent orange plastic, although there is a slight metallic flake to them, so perhaps they've got a little coating of paint, but definitely really nice inclusion. Sadly, they can't actually be held in the figure's hand. You sort of have to just group them and then cup them under the armpit, which is a little poor in my opinion. Maybe if they could have all tabbed together and then you could have inserted it into the figure's hand, that maybe would have been a little better. As it stands, they simply do just sort of roll around on my work surface, as I don't necessarily have anywhere to store them in the collection, but still pretty decent inclusion. And then of course we turn to Cybertronian Bumblebee, or Origin Bumblebee himself. Now, as mentioned, much like those energon conductor rods, this is how Bumblebee appeared in the first pilot episode of G1, and considering we're getting this guy released, I'm really hoping that we do in fact get a Siege/Cybertronian version of Wheeljack, as that would be super cool. But for those who didn't pick up the Netflix version, then this here is a really good substitute, and some may actually say that this is better, considering that he doesn't parts form and he's a really solid release. You can see in regards to the head sculpt, that is undeniably G1 Bumblebee. I actually think the head sculpt on this guy is better when in comparison to the Netflix version. You can see a really nice variety there of paint. I think the facial expression is awesome. You can see here for the torso plate, of course in bot mode this guy was essentially his VW bug, and then he would transform into the flying saucer, but definitely really nice attention to detail, where you've got that pale blue, the Autobot insignia, as well as the gunmetal. You can see here for the arms, really nice proportions going on with these. I actually think the shade of yellow they've used on this guy is better than the Netflix version, as that one was of course very saturated and more orange than yellow, whereas this guy really does look as if though he's jumped from the cell animation. You can see for the thighs, excellent looking sculpt work, a little kibbly when we come here down to the lower section, but that's just due to the nature of the design. You can see here I actually think the back of him conceals pretty decently, and those feet are undeniably ready to reformat and rescan into a Volkswagen bug. They've got all of the smoothed out panels as well as the front bumper, but of course considering this is Cybertronian form, they've not as of yet got the headlights. Now, just taking the backpack here as well as the gun and setting that here off to the side, you can see that in regards to the actual back kibble, honestly, I actually don't think it's that bad at all. I actually think it's one of the better back pieces that we've seen on a figure, and at least it doesn't detach like the Netflix version, so that is super cool. Now, in regards to these articulation, as mentioned at the beginning of this review, this guy is undoubtedly a War for Cybertron figure, so he has all of the same bells and whistles that you would expect. We've got a ball joint here at the head, which can look left to right, as well as actually look up and down and tilt side to side to a pretty decent degree. We do get a full rotation here at the shoulder. They can hinge out to the sides due to transformation. We also do get a faux butterfly joint. We also get a rotation here at the bicep, slightly past 90 here at the elbow. Sadly, no wrist rotation, although a full waist rotation, which is super cool. The legs can kick forwards that far, as well as can kick back back to about that far. He can, of course, do the splits, rotation at the thigh, 90 here at the knee, and then here for the foot. This can, in fact, actually pivot forwards and backwards due to transformation, and we get the standard War for Cybertron trilogy ankle rocker pivot, which can, in fact, actually bend to a terrific degree. So overall, definitely a super cool looking Bumblebee, and really one that can pose exceptionally well. It is just a shame that we are missing that wrist rotation, but other than that, he's pretty flawless, and all of the joints are super solid and super tight on this guy. So honestly, I can't really complain all that much. I think he's turned out really, really well done. For a siege size comparison, we've got the new Origin Bumblebee compared next to Optimus Prime, and he is, of course, appropriately small in order to scale with this guy. And I actually think the scale here works really, really well. And for another comparison, here we've got him next to the Netflix Eartherized Bumblebee, which is a very, very good figure. But if I were to be 100% honest in regards to G1 accuracy, I actually think the Origin Bumblebee is perhaps a little closer here in robot mode, especially where the colorization is concerned. Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below what color do you prefer, the lighter shade of yellow or the more saturated borderline orange that we got with the Netflix rendition. Now, turning to Bumblebee's transformation, I was actually very surprised to see that this guy is by no stretch of the imagination a shell former. His conversion is actually rather complex, and probably more complex than that Netflix Bumblebee. So to begin with, you're going to want to just straighten out the head, turn your attention to this back section, hinge this out, and then fold this section here down, and then we can proceed to fold this section out, and then essentially you're going to want to push this here over the top until it clicks there really securely, and you'll see how that does sit flush with this upper panel. We can then come here to the wrists and just conceal them there into those hollow cavities, come to the waist, rotate this here so that the front is, of course, now facing the back, take this section, pull this region forward, extend that and lift that up and over the head. We're then going to want to take the butterfly joint here, and this tab is going to peg into this slot, so bring that in, and then this one also will peg into that slot, and at the same time the arms will now join, so this slot will be housed by that tab. So just snap all of that in there really securely, and here is where things can become a little convoluted. So you're going to want to extend this foot joint out and repeat the exact same process. We can then take this, fold this out, and fold these double hinge joints out, straighten this up, and you can see a tab that will peg into this slot, so shoot that in there, and then this tab will peg into this slot, so just shoot that in there, and then with this, just angle that appropriately. Come here to this side and repeat the same process, so lift this up, just like so, straighten all of that out, until that does click in, snap this region into place, and of course align that up appropriately. And then now it's just a matter of rotating here at the thigh and utilizing the double joint that we've got here for the knee. One is for the knee joint, one is for the transformation. You're going to want to utilize both of these and just collapse them in until that region is concealed, and of course come here to this side and do the exact same, shoot that tab underneath, flip here to the underside, push all of this here together, ensuring that everything does stay tabbed in. We can then take this panel, bring this up and over, snap that there into place, and then finally take this, rotate this around, snap that there into place, and there you've got Origin Bumblebee fully transformed into his awesome Cybertronian flying saucer alternate mode. And wow, what a job Hasbro and Takara Tomy did on this guy. He looks exceptional just how he did in the show. He's turned out so well, and honestly the conversion is genius to get that really humanoid looking robot turned into this flying saucer. It's excellent, and he's definitely got one of the best Cybertronian alt forms that I've seen so far from this line. You can see in regards to the detail, we've got the same chest piece that we saw in bot mode, but we've got a really nice transparent blue plastic used here for the main windscreen, and you can see the actual shade of yellow they've used for the paint, and the plastic I actually think is a pretty decent color match. That once again is super cool to see, and I love the shape of this. It looks so cool. Even here from the side, there's actually not that much undercarriage kibble. Of course, if you flip to the underside, you can see how he does convert. Really genius conversion, but he does actually have some nice underside detailing which you don't see in bot mode, such as all of this. So that once again is a really nice attention to detail. I just think he's a super cool Bumblebee. Really fun, really enjoyable, and as mentioned, is by far the best thing that we've gotten from the Buzzworthy lineup so far, even being a rival for that Worlds Collide 4-pack that I recently reviewed here over on the channel. Now, in regards to weapon storage, you can take Bee's blaster and just port this here into the side, and the jetpack is housed in the exact same spot that it was in bot mode, so you simply do just peg it in there. But sadly, there's no form of storage here for the Energon conductors, so you can't peg them on the underside, which is rather unfortunate. To be honest, I actually think these are a little bit pointless. They could have been executed so much better if perhaps you could have taken this end cap off, and then that would have allowed you to slide it into the figure's hand, and then you could have put this back on. Maybe that would have been a choking hazard, but just something a little different, as these really I can see being very random accessories, and accessories which many collectors may not in fact actually have much use for, but nevertheless definitely a really cool looking Bumblebee. Here for a few vehicle mode comparisons, we've got Origin Bumblebee compared next to Siege Optimus Prime, and for two Cybertronian figures, I actually think they look really nice with each other. If you have a flight port stand, you could stick that in the bottom of Bumblebee and of course have him cruising alongside Prime, which is excellent. I do wish that Hasbro could have been a little more stylistic when they took this design, as this looks very Earth mode to me, and I definitely think they could have done something a little more Cybertronian to better match what we got from those War for Cybertron video games way back in the day, but still really nice looking companion pieces next to each other. And for an Earth mode comparison, here we've got the VW Bug Bumblebee, so you can kind of see the evolution. This is him here on Cybertron, and of course this is when he comes to Earth. But if you didn't pick this guy up just as a Generations Bumblebee in general, I really think this is a solid figure. And so some final thoughts for this Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee War for Cybertron trilogy Origin Bumblebee. I actually think he's turned out so much better than I could have imagined, especially for a Buzzworthy Bumblebee figure. Up until this guy's release, we'd only really gotten one original mold, that being the core class, so to get this guy, it really is a breath of fresh air, and it really has just rejuvenated the line, as of course it was a little stagnant considering we were getting repaints of one-step changes, Bumblebee figures that had come out years ago, a few different Bumblebee movie studio series repacks, just a really bizarre lineup. But recently I really think they've upped their game, especially with that Worlds Collide 4-pack, and now here with Origin Bumblebee. He's super cool, and it's the Siege Cybertronian Bumblebee that we've wanted ever since the line debuted. He looks really well done in robot mode. Of course there's some kibble on the bottom of the legs, but honestly I actually think that's a minor critique for what is a very well done release, and he definitely is a rival for the Netflix figure. That version was just basically a really heavy retool of the Cliff Jumper, whereas this guy is a brand new original mold which is not based on anything that we have seen before. So I really would love to know down in the comment section below, do you prefer Origin Bumblebee or Netflix Bumblebee? I also think the transformation is very well done, especially considering how we get that humanoid robot mode that converts into a rather circular flying saucer. That is excellent, and it looks so much like how he did in the G1 pilot episode, especially in that flying saucer mode. It's just overall really cool. I do find some of the accessories to be a little pointless. I personally am not going to find much use for those Energon conductor rods, and I can see many collectors becoming a little frustrated with them, considering that you can't really store or peg them onto any of your other figures unless you've got Earthrise Prime and of course Rodimus, which have the opening and closing hands. For any other figure you're pretty much going to be out of luck, and I'm not a big fan of the jetpack, but the blaster is pretty cool. Overall it's definitely a solid figure, and for those of you who can find this guy, I would definitely recommend him, especially if you were unable to track down that Netflix Bumblebee. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.